This video is on how to develop a pattern for a truncated cylinder. As always, when you're doing your drawings, you need to do it in a neat and orderly fashion. It's even more so, more important when you're doing pattern development, because you end up drawing so many construction lines that the drawings can get quite messy if you don't do it just right. Make sure you go through whatever technique you try, that you do it consistent every time. That way, if you make an error, it's easier to backtrack and figure out what went wrong. So as I said earlier, this is a truncated cylinder, and this circle is the top view, and this is the front view of the truncated cylinder. So we'll just get right into it. So what I want to do is I want to start off at the center of the circle, and make sure you snap directly on the center. If you don't, it's going to mess up the rest of your drawing. So I'll just trim this off, and now you see I have a line extending from the center of the circle to the outside. And I want to type in AR and then enter for the array command, and I want to make sure I have a polar array since I'm working with a circle, and it tells me to select objects, so I'll do that. I'll select the line I just drew. Okay, and now I want to select the center point, and I want to zoom way in, make sure I get directly on the same point. Okay, now it brings me back to the screen again. I want to have 12 items. This is not a written rule, but it's a good, easy number to remember. So just a dozen. Okay, and now I want to hit preview, and this is exactly what I wanted. I want different pie-shaped pieces. Okay, so I'll just hit escape, and it'll bring me back to the screen again. Then I'll click OK. Alright, so I accepted all the I accepted what the array command wanted to do. So now what I want to do is you'll see that I have these numbers over here on the side already. I want to copy these around to where the numbers are at the end of the lines that I just drew. So I'll just go around the circle and do that very thing. And I know this seems like a slow and cumbersome process, but really the more practice you get, the quicker you'll be at it, and plus the more difficult the drawings get, you'll already be accustomed to going through the procedures. Okay, so now that I've done that, you can see that I have numbers at each one of the lines that extend out. I want to draw some lines down from the circle, from the top view of the cylinder to the front view. Okay, and the easiest way to do that, after you draw your first line, and make sure this is exactly vertical. Okay, if you don't, it will again mess up the rest of your drawing. So just use the copy command and snap to the endpoints or the intersection of each of those lines in the circle. Okay, and you want to trim off any excess you have, just like that. And to keep the drawing neat, and you'll see why we do this in a minute, I want to change the color of these lines and make them all different shades. Okay, and that'll help out later on, and you'll see exactly why we did that. Now I want to use the Quick Calc feature in AutoCAD, so I'll just type in Quick Calc. It brings up a little calculator for us to work with. Now you can imagine that if you were viewing this cylinder from the right side, and you just unrolled it along this edge, that the unrolled length would be the circumference of the circle. So since I know the diameter, I can find the circumference of the circle, and that's my next step. So you can use the calculator to help you figure that out. So the circumference of a circle is 2 times pi times the radius. So it's 2, and then you want to multiply, which is asterisk, and pi is located here, and the radius, of course, is half the diameter. So it's 2 pi times 10, and hit enter, and you can see it gives me a figure of 62.8318 and some change. Now I divided that top circle into 12 equal parts, so I want to divide that number by 12, and that is 5.23598. And what that is, that's the arc length from this point to this point is exactly that long. Okay. So now that I've done that, I can start developing my pattern. So I want to just offset this by, I picked 15 in this case. You can pick whatever. But this will be your starting point. Now I want to go back and type in AR again for array, and I want to use the array command to divide my pattern. Okay, so this time I want a rectangular array, and I want to select the objects. Okay, so I'll select the line I just drew. Now make sure you change your column offset to this mount, and you'll see why in a minute. So it's 5.23598,776. Okay, and you want 13 columns, and the reason 13 instead of 12 is because 13 vertical lines will create 12 spaces for you. Okay, so just